So this weekend, got UFC Fight Night. Edwards versus Brady. Looks like it is an early card, 3 o'clock Central Time. That's real early because it's in London. Guess they're catering to their card or to their audience finally. Even though last time they were there, it seems like they made them fight at like 5 o'clock in the fucking morning. When Edwards was defending his belt, actually, kind of funnily enough. Now they're giving him a regular time card. Decent card though. It's actually got a decent amount of name power behind it. Last weekend's card was one of those where you, at surface value or like a surface assessment or whatever, you kind of would think the card would be a little bit weaker. And then it ended up going through and delivering, which does end up happening with quite a few of those cards. It's like these people, they don't have as much of a name yet, so they're willing to go out there and kind of put it on the line and make a name for themselves and risk a little bit, get it done. So it's a pretty good card, but looking at this one, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 fights. We're not going to break down every single one of them. Per usual, we do research on a handful of them, the ones that we're actually interested in, and then, just kind of glance throughout some of the rest of them. But I guess we'll get right into it so we're not wasting any time here. Guillaume Kutateladze versus Kai Fernandez. Kai Fernandez. I don't know how the fuck you'd say that dude's name. I also don't know a ton about him. We've seen Guillaume Kutateladze fight multiple times. Well-rounded fighter, the Georgian Viking is. Leans a little bit on the striking, but he's actually got decent grappling as well. Pretty powerful striker. His decision win over Jordan Vucenic, I think that's largely based off of actually the grappling. He ended up taking his back and controlling him for most of the rest of the last round. So, assuming that he has any kind of like grappling advantage, he'll probably get it done here. But given that we don't know a ton about Fernandez and I didn't feel like looking him up and doing a bunch of research on him, we're going to leave this one alone. The win over Muhammad Yahya is not bad at all. 5 KOs, 2 subs, 2 decisions, 2 decision losses. He's only 30 years old. Guillaume is not old, though. I think he's like 33 or something. Nova and Unyao. Interesting matchup. But yeah, we're going to leave that one alone. Minus 425 seems a little crazy if you're Guillaume. Yeah, 33 years old. To be that much of a favorite, but I guess maybe I'm missing something. Nathan Fletcher versus Callan Loughran. Don't know a ton about Mr. Fletcher. We've seen 2 of Loughran's fights now. Dude's got a fucking brick for a head. You got to think that lends to some kind of resistance to being knocked out. Like, surely this guy's going to come out here and nuke him, given the absolute fridge for a dome piece that Callan has. Let's take a look at Fletcher's record and kind of the composition of his wins. See if that's something maybe we should expect. Callan, this is a fucking straight up toss up. I was gonna say you could take the under 2.5 plus money though. These guys got quite a. I was gonna say, do these guys have quite a few decisions? Is that why? Quite a few in a row. Yeah, we'll probably leave this one alone. I was gonna say the under might be good, especially given Nathan Fletcher's propensity for the finish, but Callan been on a bit of a tear of decisions, so we'll steer clear of that one. Shauna Bannon versus Pooja Tomar. Seen both girls fight, I think, twice now. Shauna Bannon had a decent amount of momentum behind her. I don't even say momentum. It was like buzz or hype or whatever you want to call it for fucking no reason because I think she's terrible. 31 years old. She got 2 knockouts, 4 decision wins. Won a split decision over Alice Ardeline, so that should tell you how good Alice Ardeline is there. I had hopes for her, and well, those hopes have been dashed to pieces. Going against India's own Pooja Tomar, the Cyclone. 9-4, 6 knockouts, 3 decisions, 1 KO loss, 3 submission losses. Coming off a split decision win, a couple TKOs before that. I could actually see, I was going to say the over here, but I guess we'll be playing our decision hedges. Minus 140 plus 200, so that means you put, it kind of depends on how you want to split it up here. Pooja singles. You could do, let's say, $60 here, $40 here. Come out a little bit ahead. Let's do like 100 there, like 50 there. I do you break even. Oh, I fucking does. It's plus 200. So you do like 60 there. Split it up. What I usually do though is I kind of generally stick like with the 1 unit flat betting rule there. So I'll just take the unit, split it in half, or if I need to weigh one side a little bit heavier, I will. So that's why I was doing like 60-40, but in reality, it'd probably be like 70-30. I guess what is that? 65-35, something like that. Let's do decision. Yeah, there you go. Come out a little bit ahead either way. Shauna, in theory, is going to win this one, but I don't know. I don't really much give a shit, to be honest. I did just know she's 4'9". What? Is that accurate? I don't remember her being quite that short. That seems insane. Whatever. Next, Christian Leroy Duncan versus Andre Pulev. Mr. CLD is a pretty high favorite, if I recall correctly. Yeah, minus 575. Maybe take him inside the distance or something. I don't know. That just seems a little lopsided, but looking at the records, it's not like there's any obvious holes where it's like, oh, okay, Christian Leroy Duncan's clearly going to be able to take advantage here. The guys, I thought Puleyev's got quite a few knockouts as well. Yeah. More submission wins. Interesting. Both of them pretty young. Old Christian Leroy coming off a loss to RoboCop. Pulev went on the Contender Series. Decision win, too, so it's not like it was anything to blow your hair back. I would say Christian Leroy is probably going to win it. He's been fighting the stiffer competition. Who cares? Moving on. Let me pull up my notes for this one. So this is the first one of the ones that we actually broke down. We have Marcin Tybura versus Mick Parkin, Slick Mick Parkin. Bring these up. Let's take a gander. So you got Marcin Tybura, 39 years old. He's 26-9. Guy's been around for a hot minute. Was rocking one of the worst haircuts ever there for a while. Pretty well-rounded fighter. He's got decent grappling. Okay striking. Gets a little goofy with it sometimes, but the dude's got pretty fair striking, decent kicks. Chin seems to maybe start to be fading a little bit. He's been kind of cracked a couple times in his last few fights and seems to be getting hurt a little bit more often. Given that it's heavyweight, though, it's kind of hard to say because everybody has such fucking power at heavyweight. It's like, all right, is this just a byproduct of the weight class, or is this him actually getting hurt now? But I do tend to think it's starting to become a chin issue. Let's see here. Take my pouch out. My buddy's texting me. What are the notes? He switches stances a fair bit, but it's not like he's really throwing a whole lot from southpaw. He kind of, I think he's switching to give you a look, and then he switches back to actually start throwing. But he is, like I said, I think he's starting to slow down a little bit. Body is starting to look like it's showing some signs of age. He was looking a little loose, a little flabby in his last fight. Seems to be slowing down a hair. We'll see how he holds up here. I don't think it's going to be one of these things where he just looks like an old man overnight, but he is starting to show some signs of the age. Then you got old Slick Mick Parkin, quite a bit younger. I want to say it's 10 years age gap, 29 versus 39, 10-0, undefeated, 6'3", kid's a brick shithouse. Not that Marcin Tybura is small by any means. Some things we noticed when we were breaking down old Mick, watching his tape. Dude's a little bit flat-footed, leaves the lead leg out there, which kind of gets chewed up with the leg kicks. He does train with Aspinall, or at least he was at one point in time, so it's like, all right, well, he's surrounding himself with some of the best fighters on the planet. You'd like to think that would rub off on him a little bit. Seems to have a pretty damn good chin, too. I want to say he got cracked. Was it by Muhammad Usman? He got cracked by somebody. It might have been actually Kyle Machado. And then weathered the storm and managed to come back and get a decision win. I'm actually sitting here thinking it's Kyle Machado. Lukas Brzeski, however you say it, did touch him a couple times, but none of those really look like they even did anything to Mick. Kind of a bruiser. He likes to paw with like the lead hand, if I recall correctly. I'm trying to remember. I didn't take a whole lot of notes down on him. He does leave his head down, on the center line. So you worry about like counter striking, things like that. If it was like a real volatile striker like Cyril Gane or something, I'd be a little more concerned. Marcin might catch him, but I don't know that he's got the power to put him away. And given Mick's power, which is kind of deceptive, it doesn't look like he's hitting all that hard, but then he catches guys and fucking hurts them like Lucas. I think I'm going to have to go Mick Parkin here. I think Marcin's starting to slow down a little bit. How much of a favorite is old Mick? Not much. Okay. I wonder if it's because Marcin has kind of had a habit of derailing hype trains of late. I guess this is an instance where he potentially could, but I got to think Parkin's too durable. The dude actually somewhat knows how to grapple. Not the most physically gifted, but neither is Marcin Tybura, so you got to think maybe they're cancel each other out there a little bit. So given the decade age advantage and more or less comparable skills, basically even money, we're going to go Mick Parkin. Next up, Kavanaugh Lonair versus Felipe dos Santos. Don't really give a shit about this fight. It's two young, somewhat prospects, so it'll be a fun one to watch. Maybe more fun to watch than it would be to place money on it, because then I'm going to have like an emotional attachment to it. And I think this should just be a good one to sit out on. As I'm sitting here looking at it, I'm entertaining some bets, but we're going to sit out. We're just going to enjoy this one. 8-0 versus 8-2, 2-3-3 on his wins, 2 decision losses. 4-1-3. Interesting. It's going to have the home field advantage, old Kavanaugh will. At minus 375, that seems a little wild. Plus 295, I'd almost entertain sprinkling a little bit on Dos Santos just because I think that's a winnable fight for him, but I don't know a ton about Kavanaugh, so we'll leave it alone. Next up, and the second fight on the card that we actually broke down here, is Jai Herbert and Chris Padilla. The Black Country Banger. Jai Herbert's going to have the old home field advantage here going against USA's Chris Padilla. Jai Herbert, 36, 6-1, 13-5, 9 KO wins, 1 submission, 3 decision wins, 3 KO losses, 1 submission loss, 1 decision loss. Most recently coming off a decision win over Rolando Bedoya, and then a loss to Fares Ziam before that. KO loss to Ilya. Renato Carneiro, it always throws me off because it's Moicano. Submission loss to Moicano. No surprise, Moicano's a motherfucker. Things we noticed, watched a video on old Jai Herbert. He's tall, rangy fighter. Pretty light on his feet. He's got good movements, particularly like side-to-side. Lateral movement, I guess you could say. He's orthodox. Got a really good jabs. It's not like it's doing a ton of damage, but it's like a rhythm-interrupting type jab. Got a nice jab-straight combo. 1-2. Step in knee to the body. He's got good clinch knees. Not like he's throwing just crazy power here. It's more like good clean shots that he's landed on you. His rear kick has a decent amount of power though. Good kicks to the body. Backs up as people bring the pressure in pretty well. Like I said, he's got the good movement. I do think he's a little susceptible to the lower calf kicks, lower leg kicks, given his stance. And just in general, I think he's good at breaking the rhythm, throwing off-rhythm shots to catch the opponent. He'll be moving, circling out to the side, and then out of nowhere, he'll interrupt the rhythm that he's established, his own movement pattern. He'll jog, and then all of a sudden crash into you and catch you with a shot. He does that very well. He's done it a couple times. Also noticed against that, I think it was Rolando Bedoya. Yeah, Bedoya, he was getting a couple good trips and a couple good throws off on him, so... Standing in the clinch, he's got almost like Muay Thai kind of takedowns where he'll trip you up or dump you, or like Pereira against Ankalaev, he'll kick your legs out, things like that. And then he hit like a judo throw, if I recall correctly, against Bedoya. Going against Chris Padilla here. Flip over to young Chris Padilla. So there's a 7-year age gap, 29 years old. Chris Taco Padilla. 15-6, got 8 knockouts, 5 submissions, 2 decision wins. A little bit shorter of a fighter. It's not like he's tiny. See, it's hard to say. I don't want to say he's a shorter fighter. He's 5'9". It's not like that's even fucking really short. But compared to the old 6'1" Jai Herbert, he's giving up a little bit here. Orthodox, got a high guard stance. Kind of has the one hand up on the brow there. Notice he also is susceptible to low kicks and to body kicks. He was getting caught with those a little bit in his last fight. And given how much Jai Herbert likes those, I think he might get caught with those in this fight. Shoot up a little bit. Pretty upright in his stance. Against like a high-level wrestler or something, I'd be a little more concerned about that. But I don't think Jai Herbert's going to be going out here and shooting a lot of takedowns. I think he's going to be chewing them up, staying on the outside. What else we got notes-wise? Shorter fighter, orthodox, high guard, pretty upright. He just throw very hard. It's not like he's throwing a ton of volume or even setting up multiple shots. It's usually like a quick little flurry, or it's like a bunch of feints, pump fakes, feint, and then throwing the big shot. Relies a little bit on his durability and toughness more than I would like. He was willing to get in there and kind of trade some shots to land his own. Against somebody like Jai Herbert, who is not typically going to engage in that fight with you, I think that's probably not going to bode very well for him in this fight. I could see him attempting to get these kind of exchanges going, and Jai Herbert instead opting to pick him apart with shots, stay on the outside, and chew him up that way. So going into this fight, I was actually liking Padilla. I figured the age and the grappling ability would probably be a little bit in his favor, but now that I've watched a little bit of tape on him, I kind of lean towards Jai Herbert. Like I said, I think he stays on the outside and chews him up. I don't think he's going to get caught in these exchanges. I think the fight IQ will hopefully keep him on the outside, pumping the jab, pumping the kicks to the body. You would think the big loss to Ilya after hurting him too would be a learning experience. So I think I'm gonna go Herbert. I'm gonna go Herbert. I also don't see the crazy elbow, like chopping elbow that Padilla did catching Jai Herbert. One, given his height, and two, he doesn't lean forward like Rongzhu did. So odds here, Jai Herbert -112. We'll take it. A lot of close money on some of these fights. That's it for the prelims. That's the main fight of the prelims at noon. Wow, that keeps throwing me off. The time does. Next up, we have Nathaniel Wood. It's the first fight of the main card versus Morgan Charrier, the Pirate. Nathaniel Wood, let's bring him up here. 31 years old. He's a young gun. 20-6. Got 8 knockout wins, 5 submission wins, 7 decisions. And he's lost twice by KO, twice by submission, twice by decision. So pretty well-rounded guy. At least that's what you would take from his wins and losses, the composition of them. Things we noticed on the breakdowns, though, we noticed he got a hard low kick, real chopping to the calf and legs. Rear front kick to the body was pretty good. It's got fairly decent takedown defense. It wasn't like stellar or anything, but it was pretty solid. Stabbing jab. He's got a longer stance as well, so I kind of worry about his susceptibility to leg kicks, especially against a guy like Morgan Charrier. He's not like the fastest dude out there. Decent power. I guess he's one of these guys that if you were playing as him in like the UFC game or something, he would be like maybe a 75 everywhere. Not like insanely good, but also not bad. He's kind of the Mario of Super Smash, just your well-rounded guy. Puts together pretty solid combos, though, and with some decent power behind him, he can get it done. But I don't think he's going to get it done here. Get it done against lesser guys. Morgan Charrier impresses the shit out of me. He's 29 years old, 20-10. The record does not impress me that much, but I don't know. A lot of those losses were a little while ago, 4 years ago, when he was kind of relatively new to it. Not super new. He had 3 right out of the gates there early in his career as well. So, and the most recent one against Chepe Mariscal was a split decision, and several people scored that from Morgan. So I don't know that you can hold it against him that much. Stylistically, though, he's got a wider stance. He's orthodox. Very light on his feet. Very quick movement. I noticed he's got obviously insanely good hands. The jab is just quick as hell. His hands get a little bit low. Somebody who's got good power, good counter striking, I'd be a little more worried. I don't think it's going to be a huge problem against Nathaniel Wood. But these dude's got nasty power. Very tight hooks. Left hooks, absolutely disgusting. Pretty good takedown defense. I don't know that Nathaniel Wood's going to be able to, like maybe stifle the striking and then work to a takedown and get something going there. I don't see it happening. I also think Morgan is probably the stronger, more explosive of the two. I just don't know that Nathan's going to be able to hold him down. Given the odds, I think we're going to go Morgan. Probably just take him straight up. Quite a bit of difference in the line there at -147. We'll just take him straight up. Screw it. Money line. You could maybe even hedge it inside the... I was going to say take him inside the distance, but decision inside the distance. There you go. You could hedge it that way if you want. Honestly, for the odds, you might as well just play the -147. If you really want to get wild here, put like a quarter of a unit on him inside the distance. I will most likely simply play it safe. I don't think I'm going to double dip on this one. For -147, I'd be all right just taking that one. If it was closer to minus 192 or north of minus 200, then I would entertain doing some kind of hedging or something like that. But just take Morgan straight up. I think he's going to outclass Nathaniel Wood on the feet. I think he has both a technical and a power advantage. So we'll see how that one plays out. That's going to be a fun fight, though. A lot of hype building around Morgan. If he keeps this up, this dude's going to be, I don't want to say a star, but he's going to be one of the bigger names probably out there. Next up, we have Jordan Vucenic versus Chris Duncan. Fun scrap here. Two dudes who are tatted up. Jordan Vucenic, 29 years young buck. Let's pull him up here. 13-3. He's got 2 KO wins, 6 submission wins, and 5 decisions. No KO losses, no submission losses, 3 decision losses. So the guy's not going out there and getting finished by basically anybody, but sometimes loses a decision. That last decision against Guram Kutladze, who we were breaking down a little bit earlier, is debatable too, because I want to say Jordan was pretty dominantly winning the first round, and then the second round was competitive, and then the third round definitely went to Guram, so it's kind of like that second round. Where does it go? Tats galore, orthodox stance, got a pretty tight guard, absolutely insanely quick. Dude's fast as fuck, boy. Got a nice job. Well, he's got a nice job. He's a fighter. Nice jab, too. Light on his feet, good feints. Not a lot of telegraphing involved in his strikes as well, too. You're not getting a lot of time to react to these things. You're not getting a signal that they're coming. You're pretty much getting hit with it, and that's your signal. You've already been cracked. Pretty decent head movement defensively. His chin climbed up a little bit in some of the exchanges that I was watching, but it wasn't like way up in the air or anything. Like I said, the jab's gross. Right straight, very good. Decent rear push kick to the body. I worry a little bit that as tight as he keeps his guard, if someone throws a good hard head kick, it might actually catch him anyway. I don't know necessarily that it's going to be a problem against Chris Duncan. I don't see this guy going out here and throwing a bunch of head kicks. Maybe some hooks, but not some head kicks. He did fade quite a bit against Guram Kutladze in the second round. Makes you wonder about his output, his cardio. If this was a 5-round fight, I'd be even more concerned. But surely they got to be working on that. Also, one of the things that kind of threw me off, he went for a throw against Guram that one was not like, I don't think that was the technical choice at that moment. He kind of halfway gave up his back going for the throw. It was like a judo, turn, get your hip in, and throw the guy. You end up giving up your back, particularly when you're already tired and fading. So you wonder about his fight IQ. He's a young buck. Hopefully he'll develop in that area and kind of grow, particularly in like his shot selection and his defensive choices. Otherwise, you can have all the talent in the world, and at this level of the game, like, dudes are going to expose you and find a way to beat you. So we'll see. He's got a good wrestling shot. Not the best control. It's like he's good at getting you down, but not necessarily going to keep you there. Chris Duncan's pretty scrappy dude, so I don't know that's going to be a factor. What I would think is Jordan would want to try and keep it standing and then piece Duncan up, because he's got to have I would think, a pretty sizable advantage there. Chris Duncan, 31 years old, 12-2, 7 knockouts, 2 subs, 3 decisions. He's got 1 KO loss, 1 submission loss, 0 decisions. Keeps his hands a little low for my liking. He's also a little slow and gets a little sloppy with his strikes. Throws a little wide. But he actually has good head movement. That was one of the things I noticed when he's standing there in the pocket. He gets a little flat-footed and stationary, but he's got real good slips, like good head movement. Slipped the jab and a straight a couple different times in the last fight. Got pretty good power. He loads up a bit, though. He telegraphs it, so I think anybody who worked their salt in the striking department is probably going to see it coming and be able to stay relatively safe against that. Pretty good at snatching up the guillotine as well. Not the greatest takedown defense, but he's good at making it a threat if you do get the takedown on him. He twice in his last fight managed to sync up a guillotine on Bolaji Oki, or however you say his name, if I recall correctly. And then eventually choked him unconscious, which is pretty wild, because he then punched him a couple times, then realized the dude was out, and then was like signaling to the ref, hey, this motherfucker's asleep. And then the ref jumped in and then split it up. Kind of reminds me a little bit of like a bigger Darren Elkins in the way he fights. Willing to take some shots to get his own off, got good power, pretty technically well-rounded, but it's not like he's a world beater per se. He's very gritty, very tough. This seems like a fairly straightforward fight to me. So long as Vucenic can keep it standing, he should be able to piece Chris Duncan up pretty well. I think he's got a speed, a technical, probably a power, Maybe a power advantage. That's like the one debatable factor. I may even actually give the edge to Chris Duncan in the power department. But given the speed and everything else, I got to think that Vucenic is going to win this. For the odds, not really a whole lot to play there. You could play Chris Duncan by sub at plus 1,800 just because of that guillotine. It wouldn't surprise me if we see Jordan Vucenic do some silly shit where he shoots for a takedown, leaves his neck out there, and Duncan snatches it up like he did against Balaji. I don't think it's super likely, so I'd put maybe a tenth of a unit or a quarter of a unit on it or something like that, but I wouldn't be going nuts. That's actually why I had it over here. Quarter of a unit when you 45 units. That's pretty damn disgusting. Pretty disgusting. All right, moving on. We got a couple fights left here. We got Molly McCann versus Alexia Tainara. Old Meatball Molly, 34 years old. I wonder if she was a sponsored athlete from Barstool Sports there for a while. I don't know. She hasn't had the greatest career since then, so I kind of wonder if they cut her loose after her first fight. I want to say it was somewhere around here is where she was signed by Barstool. So I think it was actually right before Aaron Blanchfield. So she had 2 losses in a row back-to-back. 34 years old, though. Meatball went down a weight class and has looked pretty good physically. It looks like she's in shape, taking the diet serious. 14-7, 6 KOs, 1 sub, 7 decisions. She's been subbed 3 times, 4 decision losses. Notes on Molly McCann. First note, more likable than Patty the Pimblett. So take that for what you will. Southpaw. She's pretty strong, got a plotting style. She does like to come forward and make it pretty dirty and get in these like phone booth fights. Gets a little wild with her shots. She starts throwing haymakers that get a little wide, a little crazy. I think she's susceptible to the low kicks as well as the body shots that hurt her multiple times in her last fight. She also likes to duck down when she's getting in exchanges, when she's throwing, when people are returning fire. It just seems to be a natural thing that she does. She ducks down a lot. So I could see her getting caught by some knees, potentially by an uppercut, something like that. Like I said, she doesn't like the body shots. I wouldn't go so far as to say she's a glass cannon, but it does seem like she gets hurt pretty easily, but she's so tough she refuses to quit. Like I said, she got hurt twice pretty early in that last fight as well, hurt bad. It might even have been more than twice to the body and managed to gut it out to a decision. Now, she did lose the decision, but when you're getting hurt like that in the first round, you wouldn't expect this person to actually make it all the way to the decision. But she's explosive. She's powerful. She's got good shots. Those are a little wild and stuff, but I think that's where some of that power comes from, is she's willing to throw crazy like that. Going against Alexia Tainara, 11-1, 1 KO, 6 submission, 4 decision wins, and 1 submission loss. She's 27 years old, so 7-year age advantage. Coming off a decision win to Rose Concao? I don't fucking know. Who cares? Contender Series win, though. I think she's actually taking this on short notice, too. If I recall correctly, she's replacing someone else. I mean, for the odds, I don't hate taking Molly here. You could do decision hedges. You got plus money on both of them. I'd personally probably leave this fight alone. I do think it's winnable for Molly, but given the age gap and the striking ability, that's the one thing we did notice about Alexia. Striking-wise, I would say she's probably a little bit better than Molly, a little bit cleaner in the technique. She's pretty quick. Likes to throw the straights, which straights beat hooks. That's a general rule of thumb there. I guess I got to lean a little bit towards Alexia. For the odds, though, I'd probably leave it alone, or if you want what is effectively a pretty competitive, close fight, you could always take Molly. Get the dog money for what is basically a toss-up fight. Why not? Moving on. Next up, one of the more interesting fights of the night, in my opinion, Gunnar Nelson versus Kevin Holland, 2 what is now considered vets. You got Gunny, 36 years young, 19-5 and 1. 4 knockout wins, 13 submission wins, 2 decisions. Got 1 KO loss, 4 decision losses. Coming off a nice first-round win over Brian Barberena. Pretty slick, too. Stood standing for a minute, managed to back Barberena up to the cage, get the takedown, stayed relatively positionally sound. If I remember right, he was in like a half guard for quite a while and then worked his way up to mount. Had the arm somewhat isolated, and then Barberena, I think he was like turning to the side or something, and Gunnar, went to S mount, kicked the leg over, fell back for the armbar, and managed to get the tap. Not the most active dude on the roster. I mean, he's been out for 2 fucking years, basically, since he fought Barberena, which 2 years yesterday, which is kind of wild. And then a year prior to that. So, like I said, not the most active dude in the roster, but he does come in usually in pretty good shape. I don't know if this is like an injury thing or what the deal is with him. I know there earlier in their career there's a lot of injuries, so I can only assume that the same thing's going on, but maybe this is just how often he likes to fight. I don't know. Always struck me as a pretty chill, down-to-earth dude. I don't think he gets caught up in like these emotional exchanges and stuff in fights, get caught by a punch and then gets in like a rush to get his own back. I think he's a pretty composed fighter, decent fight IQ. Got a long karate stance, so I think it lends to him being like susceptible to low kicks. Reminds me a little bit of Wonder Boy, just like not quite as good at pulling it off. Who is though? Very technical fighter though. He's methodical. Very good grappler. Like I said, he's not rushing shit. He's not going to give up position, scrambling for a submission. He's going to lose and get dumped off the back. That's one of the things that Vucenic did. He got a little too high on the back in his last fight, trying to control Guram, and Guram was able to dump him basically flat on his face just by tipping forward. And you're not going to see Gunnar Nelson doing shit like that. He's very positionally dominant. And he's going against a guy here in Kevin Holland, old big mouth, who cannot decide which weight class he wants to stay in. 45-70. Made an ass of himself on the Jackson podcast. I used to be a pretty big fan of Kevin Holland. I don't want to say I was a huge fan of him, but I liked that he was game as fuck. Unfortunately, he's become pretty unlikable in the last couple years. Just seems to not give a fuck. I don't know if that's like a built-in excuse to him losing a bunch of fights. So he just says, I don't care. I'm not even trying, or any of that type of dumb shit. But it's like, well, what are you doing here then, dude? Leave. Very active though, very, very active fighter. It's like the two polar opposites. You got maybe one of the more inactive guys on the roster fighting one of the most active guys on the roster. I thought I saw a stat today that on average over the last 5 years, Kevin Holland has had a fight every like 90 days or something like that. It's like 92 days, which is just nuts, especially to sustain that for 5 years. But either way, 26-13, moved back and forth multiple times from middleweight to welterweight. This fight will be at welterweight, so he's going back down. Orthodox stance, generally stands up pretty upright. It's got a very snappy jab, nice straights. Gets a little wild in some of the exchanges, starts throwing a little bit wider on the hooks and stuff, but it's not, I don't know, it's not too crazy, and he's fast enough, gifted enough. He's got the reflexes that he can kind of make up for it for the most part. Now, as he gets a little bit older, that's going to start becoming a problem. I think his style relies a lot on speed and reflexes, which obviously go as you age. Maybe we're starting to see that a little bit, which is why he's kind of fallen off on some of these performances. Hurt his ribs in his last fight out against Roman Dolidze. So you got to wonder how that has recovered, because I don't think it was too terribly long ago. Oh, no. He fought Renier de Ritter since then. I forgot about that and got choked out. That was at middleweight. I don't know that Gunnar is going to have the physical attributes, advantages that these middleweights have over Kevin Holland, where they can kind of muscle him. Kevin Holland's no slouch on the ground. He's not like phenomenal per se, but he's no slouch. I always go back to the way he was able to survive, at least for a little bit, against Hamzat. I lean towards Gunny here. At minus 120. I think you'd be pretty safe taking that. You could take the over 2.5 at plus 120, maybe play that as well. I could see this potentially going to a decision. Really, though, if you want to be extra safe, what's the over 1.5? Over 1.5, minus 170. I'll probably play that. I could definitely see this going a little bit longer. I think Kevin's going to be able to stay relatively defensively sound long enough to drag this deeper and maybe even get back up a couple times and start threatening old Gunnar on the feet and hurting him. We'll see. I'll lean towards Gunny overall, though. Next up, co-main event of the evening, we have the return of the Polish power, Jan Blachowicz versus Carlos Olberg, Blackjack Olberg. Great fight here. Great fight. One that actually has some kind of like meaning, some repercussions in the light heavyweight division. You got Jan Blachowicz, been out for a hot minute. 2 split decisions back-to-back. July of 2023, so we're creeping in on the 2-year mark for old Jan Blachowicz. He's also 42 years old, coming off quite a few injuries. Nagging things, from what I understand, is kind of what everybody's saying. It's like stuff that's been nagging him for a while, so he took the time off to get all fixed up and come back, hopefully, in one piece, put back together, old Humpty Dumpty style. Makes you wonder, though, at 42 years of old, it's like, man, can you be taking 2 years off and come back in any semblance of shape, or at least looking like you used to? A lot of experience. He's got good power, solid grappling. He was able to grind out Adesanya to a decision win in the grappling department largely, though he was getting better in the technical striking department as well. Jan Blachowicz not doing a lot of flashy things, not exposing himself really to a whole lot. He's just putting together the basics, the meat and potatoes, I guess you could say, and putting them together pretty well. Little flat-footed, not the most mobile fighter ever. He's starting to slow down a little bit as well. But he's got a good chin, decent grappling, decent striking, pretty well-rounded guy. I guess if you're playing him in EA UFC, he's got like a 80, 83 in every department. 9 knockouts, 9 submissions, 11 decisions. That tells you the well-rounded part right there. He's going against old Black Jag, Carlos Olberg. 34 years young. He's 11-1, 7 knockouts, 1 sub, 3 decisions. He's been knocked out 1 time. I think it was a while ago, too. I think it was Kennedy. Yeah, Kennedy and Chukwu. What to say about old Black Jag? He's got an upright stance, orthodox, great kicks, very fast, goes low, and goes to the body with those, but they're very good. Not a ton of telegraphing, not a lot of setup. He just, bam, launching them out there. So I could see him potentially landing quite a few of those on Jan. Now, everybody says when you kick Jan, it hurts you worse than it hurts him, so it might not be the best idea. Kind of a odd stance. He's a little bit longer of a stance. He has that lead leg turned a little bit inside, exposing the calf a little bit. So I worry in this fight some for the calf kicks. Jan Blachowicz is kind of known for hurting people with those, slowing down the pace with those. I can see him chewing up Olberg here. Lead hand low, rear just below the chin. Kind of got one of these stances going on, like loading up. So, speed advantage, I would say probably goes pretty heavily to Olberg. Power, I don't know, man. Power might go Olberg as well a little bit, just given the age now of Jan. Jan's got some power, though, too. Scrambles, recovery, I say I'll go in favor of Olberg. Technique, experience probably goes in favor of Jan. Ooh. At minus 300, I just don't know what to play on this one. I certainly wouldn't play Carlos Olberg money line. I do think he's probably going to win here, and you got to wonder when is Father Time going to start to rear his ugly head for old Jan Blachowicz at 42. Surely it's got to be pretty soon. The under 2.5 at plus 110 isn't bad. You could take Olberg minus 3.5 at minus 140 at minus 3.5 at minus 140, meaning take away 3.5 of his strikes and he'd still win a decision. I'd probably play that. Olberg, there's such an age gap here. I mean, 8 years, especially in your 30s, going into your 40s, I feel like that's more pivotal than, let's say it was 8 years, 21 to 29. I don't think that's as big of a factor as it is when you're early 30s to 42. There's a lot that happens in that decade right there. I'm going to go Olberg. I think the momentum's behind him. Jan coming back. He's going to have a little bit of ring rust. Going to be trying to find himself in there a little bit. I could see Olberg getting it done. The under 2.5 plus 110, I'm liking. Man, I don't know. We might have just played safe. Go Olberg minus 3.5. We'll find something to play there. I definitely lean towards Olberg, though. Then, last but not least, we've got Leon Edwards versus Sean Brady. Leon Edwards, former welterweight what's going on? Why is my shit not reacting? There we go. Computer's freezing up for a minute. Former welterweight champ, old Leon Edwards, 33 years old, 22-4, 7 knockout wins, 3 submission wins, 12 decisions. He's got 3 decision losses and 1 no contest. Coming off a decision loss last July to Bilal. Semi-competitive fight, especially Leon coming on pretty strong there towards the end. Got out-grappled, though. Got out-muscled a fair bit. Never in, like, a huge threat. I mean, there's a couple times where Bilal had his back and stuff. But I don't think there was any points where it's like, oh, my God, he's about to get subbed or anything like that. Great striker, though. He's got Pretty technical game. Likes to throw the jab straight, high kick off the rear leg. Pretty defensively sound in the grappling department. He's gotten a lot better at his takedown defense. He's not giving up a lot of submissions. I do think he gets out horsepowered a little bit, like Bilal, which I think could potentially happen early here in the Sean Brady fight. Moving to Sean Brady, 32 years young, so there's only a year age difference between these guys. 17-1. He's got a great record. 3 knockout wins, 5 submission wins, 9 decisions, and then 1 KO loss, which was to Bilal. Both these guys got some L's to Bilal on their record. Coming off a good decision win, though, to Gilbert Burns. This was a fight where you thought Gilbert Burns was going to have a pretty significant striking advantage, and instead Sean Brady went out there and actually looked like he'd been working on his striking a little bit, been developing. Young buck, though, dude strong, has got a back about as wide as a fucking house. Good. He's throwing decent combos. I actually think he threw a couple kicks that were decent in his last fight as well. Some low kicks to the legs that were pretty fast. Takedown department, it's not like the slickest thing ever. He's got okay wrestling, but I think he's muscling a fair bit of it. And in this fight, I could see why while he's fresh, he's going to be able to get Leon down. I don't know that he's going to be able to hold Leon down or get a submission, and I think as the fight goes on, he's going to have a harder and harder time of that, particularly given the height advantage. Leon being 6 foot tall, those dudes are a little bit harder to take down. You know, they can reach the ground before you can, both legs and arms. So you really gotta go for that takedown on him, which is going to cost you a lot of energy as the fight goes on. Given that this is a 5-rounder, and Leon was coming back against Bilal, I could see like a one or two rounds going to Sean Brady, and then the momentum starting to swing back towards Leon and him coming on pretty strong. Potentially maybe like a TKO finish. I could more likely see a decision, though. I think bet-wise, so I think Sean's going to come in a little bit smarter in this fight since he's lost Bilal as well. I think I got to go Leon as a dog at plus 137. Other bets, though, man, I don't know. I think I might just take Leon. Money line there. I think the championship rounds are going to be the ones that really make a difference here. I think that's going to be the big telling factor, and I think Leon is going to win those. He's got the experience. I think he's got the edge in the striking, and he's comparable in the grappling, at least in like the takedown defense department. So I think he'll be able to keep it on the feet, get back to the feet if he does get taken down, ride out the early storm, and then take over the fight as it goes on. So we're going to go Leon. That is it. That is the UFC Fight Night. Edwards versus Brady in London. What is this, 255? Yeah, UFC Fight Night 255 in the O2 Arena. Should be a good card, though. We'll put our bets out on Twitter like we always do. We had a losing weekend last weekend, just barely. I should have stayed. The one bet I tweeted, I'm going to stay with Waldo Cortez Acosta this weekend. I'm going to go all in on him. And then, of course, he wins. And then I chased more wins and tried to go with some other people and end up losing them. A couple of them that were close that we probably should have won that went the other way. Kurt Holloway, looking at you. Marvin, I don't know what the fuck you're doing, Marvin Vittori. But that's it. We're not going to belabor the point and get the fuck out of here. Thanks for watching, folks. Like, subscribe, all that good kind of shit. Throw me some comments. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you think of the fights. And we'll see what happens. Thanks for watching, folks. Peace out.